Now then, the mother of the Grand National winner, Liam Treadwell, has said that although, of course, she's very proud of her son's success on Saturday, she was also a bit disappointed he wasn't looking his best. She said, "I told Liam to get his hair cut in case he did well and got interviewed on the telly, but he ignored me." So were we always pleased with our own mother's comments about our various looks over the years?
My mother wasn't the most tactful person on the planet, let me say. So, but her big thing was, whenever you had something new, if you bought a new outfit or you said, "Do you like this, Mum, new bag?" she'd never go yes or no. She'd go, "How much was it?" And I'd go, "Well, no, it doesn't matter. Do you like it?" And she'd go, "How much was it?" Now, if it was anything under a tenner, it was the best thing she'd ever seen in her life. Right. Anything over 20 quid, I had more money than sense. That's all I ever got. Could be the most beautiful outfit. "Well, you've got more money than sense, Coleen Nolan." You know, but she just loved a bargain, so she didn't like you splashing out on things. And
right.
I remember one time I came home and I'd had my hair highlighted when I was about 17, and she opened the door and went, "That is awful. You look old and it looks grey." And I said, "Mum, I don't actually remember asking for your opinion."
But you got it anyway.
But you got it anyway, you know. So she wasn't very tactful.
My mum is my biggest fan if she thinks that I'm looking well or good or anything. But she's also my worst critic, and I still do that sort of thing of looking for my mother's approval. I prefer it, you know. Especially like after this show, she'll ring up and say, "Oh, mind you, look awful on there today." And you go, "Thanks, Mum." Yeah. Especially if you thought you were looking all right as well. That's the worst thing. And she likes some things and she doesn't like others. And she also, there's periods of my life that she's wiped out, because I didn't used to be a skinhead. I used to dress like that when I was a teenager, with like the Crombie coat and stay pressed trousers and everything. And all the photos have been torn up of that era because she just hated that whole thing. And once when I had a feather cut, remember those feather cuts that were like sort of Rod Stewart and everything? Yeah. I just came to the door and she went, "Buy a wig." But then, at one point, my dad randomly, for some reason, had 2 hairdressing shops. I don't know why, what that was about. And she sent Debbie and I, and we came out looking like blooming Maggie Thatcher. That was her version.
My mum was a bit like that, because my mum had a favourite high street store that should be named as... She'd always come back with a piece of clothing for me to wear, which was always very ladylike and nice, and I'd put it in a wardrobe. But I went through a Cleopatra stage when Elizabeth Taylor did that film with Richard Burton. So I had my hair all like Cleopatra like this. And I had those triangle black eyes with the orange turquoise mascara. This was to go to school, and I just stood there like this, you know. And she just said, and off she went.
Very clever. That gave you nothing to rebel against, you see. Now, in the Sunday Times Style magazine at the weekend, journalist Shane Watson was discussing women who won't share their bank accounts with their husbands, and those who even keep secret stashes of money just in case of a divorce. She quotes Maureen Rice, editor of Psychology's magazine, who believes that pooling your resources will always end in trouble because, she says, all couples require financial space. That's yours and this is mine. So are separate bank accounts the recipe for romantic harmony?
Well, in our house, it's what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. I'm having trouble with my space because since I met Mr. Spain, he's the first man I've ever had a relationship with who's actually got any money, and I don't have to keep us all. So it's very strange for me.
Right.
But I think you've got to go... I do think psychologically you must, at least in the main, think you're sharing. But on the other hand, I get very resentful if he has any suggestions for what we do with a joint account. Or doesn't like what I'm doing with it, you know. I'm a bit inclined to... I'm quite generous about presents and things. And I'll say, "I think I'm going to go and do this," and there'll be a silence. You go, I don't know why you're going to do that. Why? And then I get, "Well, it's my money," and it's our money. So, but I think you've got to I think people that stash it away for a rainy day is a very negative way of looking at your life. You know,
I mean, we've always had... It's actually 2 separate accounts, but it's just... It doesn't make any difference. We've never had a yours and my sort of philosophy, for want of a better word. But I do have friends, several friends, who have been married and they've raised children, and they do that thing of, "Have you got that tenner that you owed me for the petrol the other day?" And, you know, I don't understand it. And there was once I was round at a friend's house, and we were having a sort of glass of wine, and we ran out of wine. And she said, "Oh, I haven't got any." So I said, "Well, let's get some more." So we went to the off-licence, and we got some more. And later on in the conversation, having a drink, she said, "Oh, well, such and such has, you know, got his wine cellar there." And I went, "You mean he's got a wine cellar and we have gone to the off-licence to get
This
money.
is the husband?
Yeah.
Has his own wine.
Has his own wine. And not just like all sort of like
Fancy.
special bottles, you know. And she went, I know, but that's his, and we just sort of keep it separate. And I just thought, but you're married and you've got 3 children. I really don't understand it.
But some people do. I mean, I've got a friend who they do the bills. She's got her account, he's got his. They sort of figure out what all the electricity bills are, the mortgage, and she writes him a cheque every month for sort of half of the expenses, and then everything else is yours to do with whatever you want. And we've got somebody else that we know whose marriage was going through a rocky patch, and he did open a Swiss bank account and started filtering money away for a rainy day.
Oh, all your friends at home will now be going, is that me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the opposite, really, because we've got separate bank accounts, but it drives me insane because it's at Ray's insistence that he has his bank account and I have mine. And, you know, I am the main, you know, Ray earns his wages, but I am the main breadwinner. But what annoys me is if he says to me, no, well, I won't get that then because I can't afford it, I'll wait for the next gig to come in. And I'm like, well, just use our money. I think we're married now, we have a child, everything is our money. It's our money. I work for us, not just for me.
Yeah.
And it actually drives me mad with him, but I think that's kind of the male
pride.
Male ego and pride situation kicking in, you know.
Yes, you want less space, really, then.
I want less space.
I still have to kick Tim under the table. I mean, he is very
you
generous.
do that anyway. You don't need an excuse.
He is very generous. And sometimes I have to go, darling, I think you'll find that the Sultan of Brunei asked us out for dinner. You don't have to pick it up. Do you know what I mean? I don't really know the Sultan of Brunei, but you know what I mean.